Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's your boy Mike Apox, back with another hardpoint video. In this one, I'm going to be explaining how to float properly in squad spawns, and I got 5 hills to use for examples. So, first off, I'm going to start by saying these setups aren't the exact setup you need to be, like what gun needs to go where, ARs here. It's just going to be super basic general scenarios so you can get the understanding. So, let's hop right into it. So let's say P3, off the initial rotation, you got to have somebody on the right holding plat, somebody on the left holding the gate. This is going to force the barn spawn, and this is pretty much ideal. But what a lot of teams fail to do is, I feel like containing them in barn the entire hill is not the easiest thing to do. It's possible, but it's not the easiest thing to do. So what usually ends up happening, especially when you have the guy at gate die and you have no time or nobody to fill that in, the other team's going to end up spawning gate. So in my opinion, instead of fighting them head on, running through dirt street, which is like what a lot of people do anyways, you should be trying to play through the free lanes of the map, splitting up their vision, making it a lot harder for them to like contain you and making your team way less predictable. So you should have somebody pinch on the right, go through tools, maybe even go through top grandmas here. Then you let your AR come off spawn and just take his time, like slow play the lane, play kills. Realistically, his whole job is to just stay alive and try to get a couple kills, or even just getting 1 kill is good enough. Yeah, so next hill. Okay, so P2, this is actually one of my favorite hills from Tuscan, especially that I feel like a lot of people don't really understand it fully, even to this day kind of thing. So again, ideally on the rotation, you want to have the back spawn, want to have somebody pushed out towards P5 or from blue hill. The other 2 people don't necessarily matter, but for the sake of the argument, so let's say you win the trades out, but there's only like 1 guy left on the hill. So, and you know for a fact all 4 of them are coming from church. Like they're not staggered, they're not, separated. They're literally all 4 together. So what a lot of teams need to do or fail to do is bump the guy out of the hill to push front. Somebody can go help him. Maybe even the 3rd guy can go help him as well. But the main person I want to emphasize here is the guy that goes into church. I feel like very few teams did this efficiently, and they kind of played man down in the back. Like if you have somebody sit in the back, and if all 4 other players just hit the hill, a lot of the times you don't really, even though it's such like a short distance, it's not enough time for you to shift over and efficiently help your teammates on those trades. So it's a lot better to be aggressive here, especially when you have the back spawn. So you can go through bottom church, make sure they don't go through bottom church to short door. If you get a kill here, you don't see anybody here, then you could proceed to top, get any kills top, and then you could collapse through radio to the front, depending on the scenario. Like the spawns are going to be a little weird there, but more likely than not, they're going to keep spawning front church. But the key to that is having the guy stay alive from blue. So there's a big risk to this, and it's not necessarily the worst thing, but it's not ideal, because you can make it work for sure. But let's say you do make this play, you push out through church, your teammates are spawning the back, so they're probably blocking the back. This is going to force the blue spawn, and this is not ideal. Obviously, they're getting a way closer spawn to the hill. If you guys lose 1 set of trades in this position, you pretty much forfeited like however much time is left on the hill, because it's going to be pretty much like impossible to re-break that over and over, or just not something that you want to like aim for kind of thing. Okay, so next hill is going to be P4 on bow cage. Okay, so this is actually a good one as well. This is like one of the very few hills that has consistent split spawns, and I feel like that was one of the main reasons that kind of like scrambled teams' brain on how to play it. So again, all right, so from the red circle, let's say ideally you're spawning 10. On the rotation, you got somebody pushed down the right, somebody pushed down the left, cutting plat. Just forcing them to either of these 2 spawns, either back plat or dirt street. So let's say this scenario happens where on the rotation the guy plat dies. Well, once the guy plat dies, so there's 2 things to come from this. Your teammate spawn will give you information. So your teammate could spawn either tin, or they could spawn behind you river. Either way, your play right here is this player doesn't really change. You should still be trying to push forward and put a pressure on them, trying to block this dirt street spawn and like force them onto 1 spot instead of giving both spawns or wrapping back to the hill, giving a map control, which allows like, so let's say your teammate does spawn behind you river. Well, it's his job to wrap back and protect, because your job is to be aggressive here. So it's just a way to constantly put pressure and make like keep control of the map kind of thing. Okay, so let's say opposite thing happens. Your teammate plats his live, but the guy river dies. Well, now you're going to spawn 10 here, probably for sure. 10 or plat, but let's say, for example, you spawn 10 right here. Instead of trying to forcefully push this out and regain control of this so you can get that setup you just had, you could just chalk that whole shit up, make sure your teammates are secured on the front and on the hill, and then you let your last like 1 or 2 players play for the back here. These are just like 2 different options. Maybe like if you have a sub or an AR, you go to the tank and cut the cross here. You could also go to the back with an AR. It just depends on the timing. But let's say you have a sub, you could push out to the back here, play any kills on anybody who's trying to pinch, and then collapse on the time. Like, the whole point of this is that regardless of what situation you're in, you're not trying to force one scenario too hard. Squad spawns it has a lot of variables, and there is no like one set way to play every situation. So you got to be able to react. And I feel like the teams that reacted better were definitely the teams that separated themselves in Hardpoint this year. Okay, so I think this is the last hill we got here. So P3 on Tuscan. This is also another very good one that I feel like people kind of scrambled their brains when they removed that back spawn over here, like back nerd. I'm not sure what you call it. But so the white circles like, obviously are the main spawns. There's a lot of spawn points on this hill, which I think is what mainly like screwed people up. But in my opinion, this actually hill was pretty simple. I think the hard part about it was how you flowed throughout the hill, because it wasn't as static as other hills can be. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So again, red arrows, you're spawning in the back. This is like your default setup. You want to get people like holding the right out the rotation, blah, 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 whatever. So let's say you won the rotation, but your teammate in fire dies. You come off spawn. So I have these 2 people circled because these are like the 2 variables in the situation. So let's say, for example, you don't have enough time to fill fire. Well, instead of having to get Marathon Pro and run from this spawn all the way around back, or even bumping the guy from blue to go fire, you could just bump the guy out of hill and then have somebody off spawn go back and help. This guy back here realistically shouldn't move too often, especially if you don't have like clean sets of kills. He could literally just sit back here, kill whore, let the other guy fill hill. Or let's say another scenario where you guys got all the kills, there's no real pressure. So instead of creating bad timing of this guy getting off the hill and then this guy like mantling over a wall, maybe you get shot from arches, you just fill the time here. But the whole purpose of fire being the main priority is because it blocks these close middle spawns, and no matter where you are in the back, as long as you have middle contained, you're just going to be forcing them to one lane on the map. So regardless, it's just going to be something smooth, something easy. Oh, actually, it wasn't the last one. Okay, so Gavutu P4. This hill is another one of like those hills that I feel like a lot of teams kind of blindly copied FaZe on it. I remember seeing FaZe do this like really early on to the season. I think when everybody was like on the LAT hype of Gavutu Hardpoint, FaZe was one of the first teams I've seen do this. So again, let's see, they're spawning in the back on the initial rotation, push out beach, 2 people bow, 1 person on time. The little exclamation point here, this spawn only happens when all their spawns are blocked. So let's say you're on the blue team and you spawn here. That should probably tell you somebody's pushed out ring and boat and they're blocking the back. So it's just pretty basic there. But so let's say the guy on beach dies. So a lot of the times this will happen to where the back spawn gets blocked, but your team will spawn cliff, which is not a bad thing. It's actually good, if anything. So there's 2 scenarios that can come from this, because there is no exact way to tell where they're spawning at from here. They can either spawn here or they could spawn in the back. Ideally, you want them to spawn in the back, and you want to trap them into this setup. So even though, yeah, like classic hardpoint, you want the back spawn and whatnot, the cliff spawn is the closest spawn, and if you could funnel them into that area, you get the best spawn trap possible for this hill. And then also, we know P5 is literally across the map. You get it's like the closest spawn to P5 as well, makes it easiest to cut off the rotation for new. So pretty much it's just a way to maximize your control. You're gonna get a lot of time off P4, and you have like a really good shot at P5. Which on this map, you never really see teams chain P4 to P5, especially since it's just across the map. So. Yeah, that's gonna be it. A little short video, how to float through squad spawns. If you guys have any other video ideas you want me to do, drop that below in the comments. But yeah, appreciate everybody watching, man. Have a good one, yeah.